Hey everybody, Randy Schwantz here for another episode of Agency Growth Machine. And I've got a rock star with us today. Michael Jans is to insurance who Bob Dylan is to music. I mean, a legend, a folk hero. Somebody's been around for a long time, influenced thousands and thousands and thousands of lives for the better. Say hello, Michael.
Yeah, well, hello, and you're making me feel like I'm really old. Okay.
Well,
I'm not as old as Bobby. Hey,
I don't think you have to be old. Yeah, I see the book on the shelf there now.
I do have his lyrics behind me.
Well, it's not so much the age; it's the impact you've had on people in society. It's been really big. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I know you're going to be humble as you say it, but I mean, you kind of invented this genre of marketing within the insurance world.
Interestingly, I had a conversation this week with George Nordhaus. So let's give credit where credit is due. George made a contribution to the industry before I was even in the industry that I think is tremendous. So I've had the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of a lot of giants, some in the industry, and certainly a lot of them my mentors, the people who guided me, trained me, coached me in the early days of my career. They were some of the greats in the marketing industry. And so they had some influence. So I just had the opportunity to bring some of what I knew to people that I really cared about. I'm not sure I'm quite Dylan, but I've been in the industry for over 25 years.
Right.
I ran the PIA affiliates on the West Coast, more than 25 years ago. And it was from that. And the story behind it was when I was hired to take those affiliates over, I discovered that they were really rapidly losing money. And I thought, oh my God, I should have done a little more research on this job before I took it. But I dealt with some turnarounds before. I was I'd been a CEO before, and so I was ready for the challenge. It was just scary, and so I had to grow it. And I did get advice. I was lucky that I just found some mentors that really knew how to grow organizations, and so we grew fast. And interestingly, like the first place, my background prior to that was nonprofit management. Okay, so I managed the anti-poverty agency in the Portland metropolitan area and the refugee resettlement agency in the Portland metropolitan area. I mean, that was my previous career, and so when I knew that I needed to grow the trade association, I thought, well, I should ask my members, insurance agents, like, how do you grow? And the kind of answers, probably no surprise, it would be like, well, we take really good care of our customers. And I was like, that's the best you can do? It's like nobody else thought of that one? Or we've been around since 1937, so we have a good reputation. And I'm thinking, okay, this is not what I'm looking for here. And then I said, well, like, how fast do these agencies grow, right? Well, the average was like 5% per year, but like the real killers were like 10% per year. And I'm thinking, I'm not living long enough for 10% a year to satisfy me. So that's when I went outside the industry to look for the marketing geniuses, and I found them, and I was able to bring some things into this industry.
Yeah. So talk about who were some of the marketing geniuses that outside the industry that really influenced your life?
Yeah, the ones that really influenced me in the early days. Number one, I think my first real serious mentoring relationships was with Dan Kennedy.
Yeah.
And so and this was when Dan was, really relatively new. Okay. He and a colleague of mine like gave me one of Dan's early like manuals, and it was like, photocopied and plastic binder, and I looked at it. There was some interesting stuff in it, a lot of filler in it. And when I realized what he was charging for it, it wasn't like $19 for a book. It was like, $1,000 for an ugly book. I thought, okay, I got to get to know this guy, right? And so he was coming to Portland where I was living, and I called Carla, his wife. I said, hey, Carla, I didn't know Dan or Carla, but I got Carla's number. I said, hey, I'd love to he's flying into Portland and then he's going to Sun River. Oh, great. I volunteered to pick him up at the airport and drive him to Sun River. Well, she gets back to me a few days later. It's like, nah, Dan's not he's not going to do that, right?
Yeah, he's not gonna fall for that one.
Yeah, it's like, you might be another one of these whack jobs. So then I hired Dan, and then I ended up in his mastermind group and spent years as a client. So Dan really had an understanding of how to market. Another great mentor was Gary Halbert, probably the greatest copywriter of his generation, I think. Also did some training with Ted Nicholas, who's a little less well known, but he grew a direct response empire with the company corporation that was that was legendary in its day, and he was a world-class copywriter. And then I participated in Dan Sullivan's strategic coach for 11 years, and I got really, really solid insight on entrepreneurial behavior, best practice behavior from Dan. So, those were some of my early mentors that really had a lot of influence on me.
Big timers. All right. So then, and by the way, kudos to George too. When I first got into business, my first client said, "You ought to meet this guy named George Nordhaus." I called him. He was really friendly, and he said, "Write an article. If I like it, I'll publish it." It's the first article I ever wrote, called "The Buck Stops Here: The Art and Science of Doing Deals." Off of that, I got 2 or 3 new insurance agency clients, and that's when insurance became my niche. So
right on.
Thank you, George.
Okay, good.
All right.
Good.
So Michael, here's the question I want to ask you. I want you to imagine that you are a 28 to 32-year-old commercial insurance agent going after accounts that produce from, say, $7,500 up to $30,000 of revenue. You know what you know now. I mean, you got all this experience from Dan Sullivan and Gary Halbert, and what you learned from Dan Sullivan and all that sort of stuff. You get to bring all that stuff to the table. You are a niche. You can pick any niche you want. What I want to know is now, how would you use what you know about marketing to position yourself to ultimately, in my mind, the game is to set more really high quality qualified appointments so you can go sell it, wedge out the incumbent, and win the business, grow a humongous book. So what would you do with all that knowledge and experience to position yourself using those marketing tools to build to set more, better appointments?
Got it. Okay. I'm going to break that down into a couple of chunks. And the first one is I want to kind of set aside, eliminate, obliterate any misconceptions people have about marketing as if it were like, as if marketing were somehow a magical way to manipulate other people's psychology and get them to do things they don't want to do. That's not what it is at all. Great marketing is like a great conversation. And it's a great conversation with the marketplace of your choice. And so the first thing that I would do is what you may think, that's not marketing at all, but it's really fundamental to it, which is a sort of an internal self-examination. And I know that you teach this to your customers because we've talked about this, to your clients. It's to be able to answer the question, if I were a prospect, why should I do business with you above any and all other options, period, right? Because I have choices. And today, the consumer in some ways has more choices than they've ever had before, okay?
No
I
doubt.
don't think we haven't quite seen the explosion of choices in commercial lines, but the commercial lines arena is changing too. Clearly on the personal line side, we've seen like the direct channel is like, it grows every single year, and it's, a serious competitor. And in the commercial lines arena, who knows what we will see, but I'm in touch with a half a dozen different insurtech companies who are really interested in getting that commercial lines customer. And some of them will go through an agency, right? They'll run the insurtech through an agency, but there are players out there, and there's venture capital out there that's just really interested in disintermediating. And so we're in a position right now where largely because of the explosion of technology, the locus of power is shifted from business more and more over to the consumer. The consumer has more choices. They can they have power tools, in this thing, right? So they can like instantly see, how many reviews do you have? What do people have to say about you?
Yeah, so let me jump in here. So not only has the power shifted, say, from corporations to the consumer, but power has also shifted from the corporation to the salesperson, where it used to be not that long ago, if you wanted to market yourself, I mean, you'd have to spend billions of dollars on, equipment, and software, and all that stuff. And now, just like, anybody can set up their own podcast for $500.
Here's the distinction I'd make. Okay, is I would say that the consumer really is in a very strong position of power, right? They have, because they've got choices, they have access to information, they can do research and et cetera, right?
Yeah.
But all of those tools which panicked the industry in the 2000s, the internet is going to disintermediate the agent and take them away completely. All of the tools that are available to the consumer for communication, research, and publication, they are available to the business, okay? And so the business can grab that power and use it. And what makes it powerful is that it can enable them to connect deeply and meaningfully with the customer. And so I'll agree with you 100% that if the business person or the salesperson wants to be in an equal position of power with the consumer, well, they've got the tools to be able to do it. They just need to be able to do it the right way.
And so maybe I'm just going to redress that question. Maybe they're not going to be in equal power with the consumer, but how do they get power over their competitor? And so the competitor is going to come in two things. One, you're talking about the InsurTech, and they're trying to disrupt the industry and stuff like that. And so far, in my humble opinion, I haven't seen much of it happen in that upper commercial space. Just haven't seen it happen. Sure, it's going to come. I mean, someday everybody's going to have a Siri sitting on their desk, and they'll be able to say to Siri or Alexa, "Hey, Alexa, is this thing covered?" And Alexa will be able to give a better answer than any broker would. But that's not there yet, or it doesn't seem like it's there. But what I'm really more interested in is, again, you're a 28 to 30-year-old person. In this case, you're a man. You're 28 to 38-year-old man. And you've got your niche. Now with all the tools out there, you've got email tools, you got YouTube you could create, you've got podcasts you can do, you've got letters you can write, you've got all those things that you as an individual can use. With that being the context, now how would you go leverage, what would you leverage, how would you leverage it to go make something fantastic happen for you and your family?
Got it. Okay. You had said something in the setup that's fundamental to the success, which is I got a niche.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Awesome. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So boom, we want to start there, and I think.
Explain why a niche is so important.
Yeah. From a marketing point of view, it's important for so many reasons that I'm going to lose track. Okay.
All right. Just get the top three then.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd mentioned earlier that like great marketing is like a great conversation. And so if you can imagine me having a conversation with somebody, I can do it with, it's so much easier to do it with a niche or people that have, like-minded concerns and issues and problems and solutions than I could with kind of, a bunch of people that don't have anything to do with each other.
Right.
So that's the first part, is that I can actually say something meaningful, right? Otherwise, if it's like, hey, yeah, I'll write business for anybody who's got a commercial lines policy. Let's talk about insurance. The fact is, what you'll quickly discover is that nobody wants to talk about insurance, right? But if you've got, let's say a niche of contractors largely focused in, let's say, Central Oregon, okay? Boom, we have things that we can talk about, right away. And so Like when I talk about a great conversation, how do you know when you have a great conversation? It's when both parties are listening to each other and they develop some intimacy over time, and where when I say something to you, it resonates with you, but also when you say something to me, it resonates with me because it gives me a better understanding of you. I did a training with my clients yesterday on it's a tool I call the mind reading survey, and it's a one question survey. This is a great tool that I'd love to share with your customers. It's a one question survey, and I used myself as an example. So I'm going to walk through my example. I launched because I'm launching an online marketing course. I wanted to make sure that I knew what to say. I've been writing marketing copy for over 25 years, but hopefully I'm not arrogant enough to think that I just know what to say because I've been saying things like it for 25 years. I recognize that this is a rapidly changing world. It's a pretty turbulent industry for the insurance agent and agency. And so I reached out to my marketplace by email, in social, and with an email that largely said, hey, I wonder if you can do me a really big favor, because I need some advice from you. I'm launching this course, and I want to make sure that in the course I'm addressing your biggest problem. Would you be willing to answer one question for me? And if you do that, one, I'll be super grateful, and I really mean that. Two, I've got a little gift that I want to give you, and it's a good gift, right? It's a copy of my guidebook, The 4 Stages of the Marketer and the Modern Insurance Agency. So I got a lot of response back, and the question was, when it comes to growing your agency, what's the biggest obstacle or challenge that you face? Boom. I didn't ask for anything else. I asked for their name. And then I got the email because I wanted to send them the gift. So, I got a lot of value out of that.
Yep.
And then I also sent them to my waiting list. But what they told me were real emotional, full of emotional content, real feelings about issues. And the issues they were in their own words. I got a lot of long responses back to that one question. And there's essentially, I could look at, let's say, I went out to some thousands of agents, but I picked the top 20% that gave me the most in-depth answers. And they told me exactly not only what I need to put in the course, because these are the issues that they're facing, but they also told me what to put in my sales letter, right? They kind of wrote half my sales letter for me. So, I'll stress that. I really want to emphasize that part of it. If somebody is thinking, because Michael's going to talk about lead magnets and funnels and technology, automation and bottom of the funnel, middle of the funnel, top of the funnel, all this, the architecture of marketing. Yeah, I can talk about that till I'm blue in the face. But if somebody's thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to sit in my ivory tower and I'm going to look around and say, I want to dominate that marketplace, and I'm going to do it real cool. No, marketing is a bit of a wet sport, right? It's wet work. It's like, you need to know the heart and the mind of the people that you want to have a relationship with, right? And it's much better to not think I want to dominate those people or that market. It's really much healthier to be thinking I want to have a genuine, meaningful relationship with them where we both extract value.
Yeah, fair enough. Good. So then the first thing you said was find a niche so that you can engage in that conversation. In order to know how to engage in that conversation, you use the deal of ask them one question, like what's the biggest problem going on in your industry? Do that. Now you get the mind of the buyer, you get the communication going on. And then I heard this guy talking the other day, his name's Tim Pollard. I interviewed him and he was talking about how a lot of our proposals and things like that are me-centric rather than you-centric. So rather than talking about what's important to you, I'm talking about how great I am in essence.
Right.
So when you get what's going on with people, you can talk in their language about what's going on with them, and it resonates better. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can. I mean, from a marketer's point of view or a copywriter's point of view, you can use their exact language. So in the sample, when I did the training yesterday, I said, "Here, take a look at this answer that I got from a client or from somebody who shared their response with me," and I looked. I said, "Boom, let's pull out 3 things in that one response that can be the subject line of an email that are intended to drive people to where I want them to go." He's just given me the exact language. And some of his language was like, gosh, I wish I knew how to track and measure the results of my marketing. Boom. Okay. So I know how to solve that problem. So think about this. I could put it as the subject line of an email. Do you want to track and measure the response of your marketing in your agency? Because there's a lot of people that responded to that. But I can also put it in my actual solution and build my course around that kind of stuff. Okay, so from an agent's point of view, I sometimes agents think that the product that they sell is the thing that they get from a carrier.
Right.
Well, if that's all that it was, then fine. Then I would just long for the day we could go directly to carriers and buy it, because the agents don't add value. In fact, that reminds me of a conversation I had with Sam Friedman at Deloitte. And he put out a report about this 2 or 3 years ago where they surveyed commercial lines customers. And 60% of the respondents said they got no value from the agent other than buying the policy. Well, I thought, jeepers, well, there's an industry that's in trouble. Oh yeah, I'm in that industry. I guess I better pay attention to it, right? And I thought, wow, 6 out of 10 feel like they get nothing. So what good is the agent? Just to sell a policy? If that's all they're doing, then I would say that's a really vulnerable relationship, because the client is thinking, his relationship's mostly with the product, right? And maybe, and if they're selling on price, then it's even worse, because now it's not just that it's my relationship is with the product, my relationship is with the price. And so if I see a more attractive price come along, then I'm willing to go. So, when I think when an agent, and I'm still on your question about niching, by the way. When I think about like an agent, so let's say an agent has a niche in, whatever, contractors in Central Oregon, what have you. Yeah. They really do need, now they've got some expertise, they really do need to think about what else can they offer to the customer beyond what they get from their supplier. If all they're doing is passing something on from the supplier, the value of the entity that we call the insurance agency or the agent relationship is really minimal. On the other hand, around the product, there's service, and around service, there's sort of the totality of experience. So number one is having a niche. It allows me to it gives me permission to have a conversation, and it accelerates my ability to not just declare, but to really demonstrate authority, right? So so think of it this way. Let's say a producer has this niche, and so during the course of their week, they're having conversations in that niche all the time, right?
Right.
And so they're getting a rapid education in authority building because they know so much about it. If they're jumping from one niche to another, they have zero authority.
All right. So you made your case on niche.
Okay.
You made your case on niche. You made your case on, I'm going to use my words, getting inside the mind of the buyer. Mm-hmm. What is going on with them, and what is it that is bothering them about? And I think of it this way: if I'm asking my clients, become the buyer, be them, and sit there and just go, what do I hate about insurance? Well, I hate the things I don't understand and therefore can't control, and causes me feel victimized. And so you just go through all that stuff that's really hard to understand. All right, so then that gives you a lot of that topical headlines, content things to talk about, because most buyers, like if we go back to your Central Oregon contractor, they don't understand the experience mod. They don't understand the reserves that are set on claims. They don't understand, the fluffy language in contract. There's a lot of things like that. That then you become the authoritarian or the authority because you can now talk about those things. So now let's suppose we got somebody that understands our marketplace now enough to be an authority and be able to communicate in the mind of the buyer. Now you being that 28 to 30-year-old kid that's trying to grow your book of business, and you know this, you know that you've got the authority, you know the mind of the buyer, and once again, you're bringing all that Dan and Nicholas and Gary Halbert and Dan Sullivan, all those guys taught you. Now, your goal is to get it really high quality appointments with those buyers. How would you use what you know about marketing to get it to the point of on the books and appointment? And forget about COVID. I mean, we can either do virtual things like this or be face to face.
I think producers should go all in on virtual to the extent that it works for them. I mean, you and I have talked about this. I could have a half a dozen like serious appointments in a day on digitally or virtually, whereas in the physical world, well,
a lot of drive time.
I am. Okay, so I have a couple of things that I would share on that. One of them is this kind of a standard funnel. So let me give a little bit, just to sort of design the architecture of a decent funnel. They're not complicated. They require some skill. A little bit of technology, but it's not beyond the scope of any producer that's genuinely serious about dominating the market. And again, everything comes back to your profound understanding of what's on the heart and mind of the marketplace. Okay. All right. Now, and your capacity to create a unique selling proposition or some value proposition that matters. Okay, so a really standard funnel is, first of all, you need to know where they are. Where do they hang out? Okay, I mean, it is possible that you don't have an email list, which is the holy grail of marketing. If you can get an email list of prospects, particularly an email list you earn, not an email list you buy or rent. Okay. An email list you earn, which means that at some point they raised their hand and they said, I'm in.
Yeah, right? They opted in on something. You offered something a premium and they go, I want it. So they give you email address.
There's no 28 or 30-year-old, that might be listening to this, and there's no 58 or 68-year-old that's listening to this that hasn't at some point hasn't opted in, right?
Right.
And then 2 or 3 months later, they're looking at their email and they're saying, oh my God, where did all these emails come from? Well, they opted in on something, right? And so, the standard opt-in, like at the lowest denominator on opt-in, is to trade your email address for something you want. And, if you want it bad enough, you might trade more. You might trade a phone number. Okay, that's an option. So in any case, I can solve a problem for my marketplace. And so now I want to make that problem, that solution available, maybe in a guidebook or an ebook or something really simple. Yeah. Maybe a one-page cheat sheet. Okay. Right. Something is a super, what marketers call a snackable, right? Something I can digest in less than 5 minutes, right? Or I can swallow it right now.
Yep.
And so, first of all, we need to know where they hang out. If they're hanging out on LinkedIn, then I want to start growing my connections on LinkedIn using posting. But there also, there's some techniques that I don't have time to get into probably today. But there are ways to draw people out of LinkedIn that are a little more aggressive, but really very powerful. And so over time, you can build up a decent email list. You can, and by attracting people with what the industry calls a lead magnet.
Right.
Something that's so a magnet. It's so attractive that some people just can't avoid being drawn to it, and they're willing to opt in for it. And then kind of the standard format is, once they're in, it's to have a series of automated emails that follow up with them and continue to establish authority, continue to give lots of value. So you've got the law of reciprocity. So people they like, you give generously to them.
So let's stop right there and let's talk about that a little bit.
Got it.
Because that's another thing. I struggled with that, and then I got over the struggle. I mean, because I heard it enough that I go, okay, just surrender to it. But there's for some, and it was for me, there's that fear that you're giving away your best stuff, right? I mean, that it's a fear, whether it's true or not. You're giving away your stuff, and if you give away your stuff, why would they need you? But that's not true, is it?
No. You're right.
No.
So let me ask you this question, okay? Because you're a good example, and I'm a good example too. I got a lot of free stuff out there, right?
Yeah.
But people still want a relationship with me for a different reason. They can have a relationship with my guidebooks or my ebooks or my website, but that's not the same as having a relationship with me. It's just it's not. If they want, So in any case, so let me ask you a question. As you started giving more and more of Randy's genius away, did your business go down?
No, it's interesting because that book right there, The Wedge.
Yeah.
Man, I break it down. I think I've sold about 60,000 copies of that. And I get people every year that will say to me somewhere along the way, unsolicited, man, I read your book 12 years ago. I read it every year, and you've made me a lot of money. It was the best $30 investment I ever made in my whole entire life. And so then sometimes I think, oh, I gave too much away. But for every one of those, there's a guy or gal or firm that comes in and pays me $30,000 to help them. Right on. And so I think in this context, when you get into, and you talked about the concept, I got to know my buyer, and then I got to bring some value, that value, the more you start to break it down in just little tidbits, checklists, whatever, teach people how to review their own deal. As you're doing that, they're also making that comparison in their mind to what they're getting from their current supplier, i.e. agent. And go, why the fear is, if I tell you how to do it, you're going to tell my competitor how to do it. My competitor's going to do it for you. You're going to be happy. But if I keep feeding you, all of a sudden you're going to go, my agent's not doing that for me. And the Sam Friedman, 60% not happy, that thing's going to start to tilt in my favor, right or wrong?
Yeah, absolutely right. Like in my world or your world, what people can get that they can't get from our books is speed, right? In other words, yeah, you can read the book and figure it out, and there's a lot there. But if you want to accelerate the speed, there's no way to deliver that except through human relationship. Well, what an insurance consumer could get from a consumer or from an agent that is genuinely better by our definition, is that they'll actually get what they want, right? They'll get, but Bain did some terrific research on what the insurance consumer wants, what the modern consumer wants, right? And they identified that they fall into three buckets. There's a bucket that wants price, best price. There's a bucket that wants convenience. I want speed, okay? And there's a bucket that wants peace of mind.
Yep.
And on analysis, if you look at those, well, you got the price buyer. In the personal lines arena, for example, God, we hear like a day will not go by in the life of an American citizen where they don't hear more than once that price is the distinguishing factor.
Progressive, Geico, State Farm.
Yeah. Though if you listen to State Farm's, advertising, they lean, like with the Chris Paul commercials, they do lean towards
some
damage
value,
and protection and value a lot, and the good neighbor thing. There's some real value in that, right? And so those price shoppers, they exist. Like just people are everywhere. They exist in commercial lines as well as personal lines. And as far as customers go, I don't even want them. I wouldn't even want them. They churn fast. They tend to be problematic. there's so many more of these. Now, convenience, this research was done a few years ago. Convenience was a bit of a distant third. And as a channel, we're not great at it. We're getting better, but we're not as convenient as, as some other channels are. But yeah, in regards to like the third value, peace of mind, there's no channel in the world that delivers it like the agency channel. Why? Well, largely, anthropologically, psychologically, we are a tribal species. That's, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, like virtually everything we want comes from having relationships with other people. And so, and to be separated from people, shunned or excommunicated, those are, like the cast into outer darkness, right? So being a part of a tribe is like psychologically of supreme importance to a human being. Well, there's nothing that makes an insured feel like they're part of something. I got a guy, people, somebody's looking after me, that nothing delivers peace of mind like the agent channel does. So, that's the demographic that's best suited for this channel, because we're not as good as at the others. Doesn't mean we can ignore them altogether. And it's where the money is. And so if we can demonstrate to that demographic that we can take care of them, we will provide advice to them and advocacy for them. And if we can deliver that, I mean, this is, I know your clients are as concerned about retention and keeping customers as they are, like getting new ones.
Yeah.
If we can invest in existing relationships, they will reward us really generously. And so the reason I'm sharing this, I just don't want to lose this point. We talked about creating content, with a lead magnet or what have you, and there are lots of other ways to do it. That content, that delivery of value and meaning and some humanity, some delight throughout the year using technology, small investments deliver a remarkably huge return. In this industry, the money is in the relationship, and we have to be willing to invest in those relationships.
All right. So let me, again, hopefully all tangentially tied into what we've got going on here. It's interesting for me personally, when I'm looking when I'm searching, I see, maybe I'll see the lead magnet you're talking about. I'll click on that. I'll get something from them. There'll be a click through. I'll go watch a video. And then I get to see, just like I'm seeing you right now. So it's obvious you don't take yourself too seriously. If you did, you wouldn't be wearing that hat. So I go, there's my buddy.
I've had 2 haircuts since COVID started, and the last one was 6 months ago.
But still, if you took yourself too seriously, then you would either slick it back or something. The point is, I go, that's a real guy, right? That's a real guy.
Yeah,
I could like him. So my question to you is, my assertion is that video, YouTube, that sort of stuff, having people go see it and give you a chance to be you, educating and things like that. What do you think about that video in terms of the media? You got emails, you got text, you got video, you got colorful graphic, little cartoons or whatever. I don't know how many different medium there are. How do you
about infinity?
Okay, about infinity. Yeah, we can draw on a Coke bottle top and put it in an envelope and send it off to them. But how would you rate the video piece?
Very high.
Do you have any opinion on that?
Very high, and here's why. I mean, it is the fastest growing marketing media right now. It's so important that in my training with agencies in the next 2.5 months, I have 2 of the best video guys, different approaches to video, as guest experts delivering a master class. It's that important. And I was just looking at, I've developed a presentation called 7 Secrets Every Agency Must Know to Grow 25 to 40% in 2021. Video, and it's not that it's the 7th most important, it's just sequentially where it comes out as number 7 is easy but persuasive video. And it's because, one, it's kind of an interesting, an interesting element of timing. Video is so easy to produce right now that that you got to pay attention to it. Like the barriers to creating video are like gone. There's like no more excuse. So then the question is, okay, just because it's easy doesn't mean that I should do it. So should I? Well, video does deliver something that, well, as a career copywriter, from a copywriter's point of view, damn, it's really hard, right? I've got to get people engaged. I got to get their attention. I need to deliver a sense of humanity, and I need to do it in a way where there is no human, right? It's just words. So video delivers two things that other media typically don't. Number one, it delivers the human face, which is the first recognized pattern in the developing human brain. It's the first pattern that a human infant can recognize. So it's imprinted on us as something that delivers something really, really, really powerful. And so we're able to read faces in a way that we gather so much information at an unconscious level. That's number one. The second thing that it delivers is the human voice, which actually also transmits more information, like the memory of a voice. If you've heard, like in police crime shows, right? If you've heard this before, it's a true fact that an eyewitness is not nearly as valuable or reliable, accurate as an ear witness, because there's so much information that gets transmitted through the ear, emotion, tonality, nuances, right? And so we're able to, like in a 2-minute video, you're able to like just dump, like a lot of humanity and a fair amount of value. And you know how long it takes to produce a decent 2-minute video? 2 minutes, right? And so it's become not only acceptable, but in many ways preferable to create a low production video over a mid or high level production. What I mean, like the distinction is, if I'm going to go to like a mid-level production video, I could shoot it on my iPhone, but I got to throw in a bottom third and maybe a logo and, maybe scripting or something like that. If I'm going high production, I'm bringing in maybe 1 or 2 videographers and I'm spending $10,000 or more, right? There's something about the low production video that just delivers almost unvarnished humanity, and so provided you are trustworthy, you're going to earn it.
Yeah. So you've used the word humanity about 18 times already.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So when you say humanity, what is it you're really talking about here? I mean, I know the word human, but what is it? What's the essence? What are you trying to get across to us when you're talking about delivering humanity? What is it you're trying to get us to get out of that?
I do think it matters everywhere, but I'm going to really stress the importance of it in the agency channel, right? So, if you think about this, let's go to the direct channel. Let's take Progressive's direct channel. The big disadvantage that they have is that a consumer realizes that they're not going to have a relationship with a person. They're going to get a product out of it. But in all of the advertising, they've created a character, or in this case now 2 or 3 characters that have a real, it's funny, it's quirky, it's not real, but it's hard not to laugh at. They're like Flo and her sidekick,
Jamie.
Jamie, right? And so they deliver a character that people they like, right? And so they recognize, Progressive's advertising, whoever they're hiring to do their advertising, they, like most corporations, they recognize that they have to make themselves relatable. Well, there's nothing as relatable as a person. And so to deliver that peace of mind that's so meaningful to the highly loyal insurance customer, be a real person, because they can get their product somewhere else, right? But the reason that I've been with my agent for probably 20 years, and I'm in Arizona. I moved here 3.5 years ago. I'm still keeping recs up in Central Oregon, right? Why? Because there's a sense of human relationship, and I believe in it. So like people reach out to me on LinkedIn and they're like, "Hey, Michael, I see you're in Arizona. Can I quote your insurance?" Like, dude, you haven't even earned the permission to ask that question.
All right. So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Here it is. We, an average salesperson, whoever we are, we get on video. I know I'm going to do a video. And, self-consciousness kicks in, which is the antithesis of, well, I don't know if it's the antithesis or not of whatever we're going to call relatable and human, all this sort of stuff. But I want to impress you. I want you to know that I know what I'm talking about. And so then I create this pressure, and then I come across like a robot, or I'm trying to prove that that I do have authority, and then it's just the opposite of it. It's not genuine.
I get it.
So
yeah.
What would you say is the mindset that when we turn on that camera that we go? What would you say?
Yeah. Okay. I do think that's a really valid question, and I'm sympathetic to the person that isn't comfortable in front of a camera. So here's the mindset behind it is this, that the novice marketer thinks about that marketing is all about how much can I get out of the marketplace. The advanced marketer thinks that marketing is all about how much can I give. And so if you can, turn on your iPhone, maybe plug it into a $29 lavalier, so you can set it over there so the sound's a little bit better. Boom. If what you're attempting to do is, let's say in a 2-minute video, so I just want to deliver one nugget to you, right? One thing that matters to you, and you put your attention on them, then, that's the mindset that can be cultivated. It may not happen the first time. That's okay. You know what? I'll share this with you too. It was, the founder of LinkedIn said, if you're not embarrassed by your first launch, then you waited too long to launch.
Right.
And I thought, oh, well, I launched an insurtech company, Agency Revolution, 10 years ago. When I look back now, my God, the quality of the product, I would be embarrassed about that now when I compare it to what it looks like. It's probably the same thing. It's like, yeah, don't wait until you're perfect. You're never going to be perfect. And in fact, not everybody's going to like you. That's all okay. That's all right. At some point, they're going to know you, right? And the ones who would be attracted to your message and your willingness to put yourself out there, they're going to move your direction.
Yeah.
And so, video. You mentioned like, oh, there are all these different media. Video is a really powerful media. And it I think no longer can be ignored.
And so therefore, to do videos, should I just set up my own YouTube channel, or should I set up Vimeo and pull them there and put links in there? What do you recommend on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It does depend a little bit on where you're going to use it. The nice thing about using YouTube is that it will likely assist with your SEO, your search engine optimization. It's owned by Google, and so Google respects that. But you do want to make sure, regardless of where you host it, you want to make sure that people see it. And so that may mean, if you've got a commercial niche, LinkedIn is a good, robust platform. I would say that your clients should learn to suck some real juice out of LinkedIn, because it's just waiting there. So, know where your audience is. If they're on LinkedIn, you can post a video there, and it just takes a couple of minutes. But also you can use it in email. You can use it on your website and drive people there. If you have a YouTube channel, certainly you can have an email and drive people to your YouTube channel. and then conceivably they could see some of the other things that you have to say. And there's no shortage of stuff to say, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, it's like one survey will get you a ton of responses back, but also, if you've got, if you're meeting with clients, you probably should take a notebook or something, right? Or, or on your phone. It's like after that meeting is over, jot down 2 or 3 things that, like these are questions that they had. Or if there are account executives or CSRs that are also servicing them, ask them, like, keep track of the questions for a week or 2. Boom. You've got stuff that's going to engage the marketplace. And at some point, you're going to find something that gets a spike in activity. And now you want to pull that off of the shelf and find ways to repurpose that. Turn that into the guidebook, a video series, maybe. We talked about, you mentioned podcasts that, we can talk about that, but there's so many different ways that you can take the same message and deliver it through different media, and different people will be attracted through that media.
All right. So then here's kind of my closing question with all this stuff. I picked a niche. I got into the mind of the buyer. I'm genuinely, I just want to give them that one nugget, and whether I do it by email or voicemail or YouTube or whatever, I'm doing that. And then the last piece is, I've been using, a tool called Calendly, where now it's out there and then click on it and then go book a call with me.
Yeah.
Which is really if you're with the right niche, it's the ultimate.
It's good.
It's beautiful. So then do you have any advice on that? Because basically we got to somehow move where and when possible, move the prospect to action. And the action that, again, the way I set you up, you're 28 to 32 male guy, you're going after contractors, and you want them to say, I'd like to have an appointment with you.
Yeah.
So any idea on how you would style that or put that out there, or make it to where it's not like you don't look needy? I mean, do you just have any comments or counsel on that?
Well, look, it is a good technology. That happens to be, there are a lot of calendar appointment setters.
Right.
But Calendly is the one that I happen to use. I think its facility is great.
Yeah.
So typically nobody gets into my calendar without access to my Calendly, and I don't just throw it out. It's just not widely available. It's usually in an email only, and so. In an email stream, like, let's say there's, 7 or 10 follow-up emails. I think the Calendly appointment setter, it should be there. And over time, it should be more aggressive, and it should coincide with the message. And so you can go, I would say, hard or soft. And let me make the distinction. Like a hard offer, if you want me to, develop a proposal for your insurance, like you're ready to buy, set an appointment with you and I'll walk you through it. Or you can go a little softer with, an audit or review, or, a 7-point checklist where I can determine where you're most, something a little bit softer. I would test those out, depends on the niche, and see what works. But yes, I would definitely let people schedule appointments when it's convenient for them and for you. And, Calendly, make sure you set it up this way. It can set out, reminders, right? So the likelihood that they'll show up is greater. And then
Right.
I connect my Calendly always to Zoom. I don't do phone calls. I got lousy reception out here. I got rid of my landline. So that means that it's really hard to call me. And so I connect it to Zoom. So it'd be like this. If somebody has an appointment with me, and frankly, as many salespeople have learned, like the closing ratio goes way up when you got video, not just audio.
Right.
All right.
All right. So everybody, this is Michael Jans. As I said, the Bob Dylan of insurance. I mean, he's a legend. He's helped thousands of people. And you've also got an online marketing course that I think somebody asked you, because I think you've retired or semi-retired. You're out in the desert, laying in the sun, killing armadillos and stuff like that. But you decided to put together an online marketing program, and that's going to be available sometime in the near future. Anything you want to say about that?
Well, I sold Agency Revolution 3.5 years ago, and we moved out here to the desert, and I live next to 3 million acres of national forest. And so I enjoy a quiet lifestyle. Okay. I enjoy nature, and I enjoy my seclusion and my solitude. And I got COVID, and I had some long haul symptoms for a while. I'm just super grateful to be able to say they finally resolved themselves. But I was in communication with a client, and I said, maybe, time for me to get another dog and walk out into the desert. And he said, no, you can't go away. I said, well, he said, at least do a major brain dump of what you know about insurance marketing. And I said, let me think about it. And so as I thought about it, I came up with the idea of delivering live, because I think there is value in like a real sense of relationship and spontaneity, and the ability for people to ask questions and me to give answers. So I've developed a 12-week curriculum that really, it does cover virtually everything we've talked about: how to attract high quality clients into your funnel, and how to get the best conversion, and how to generate more revenue per customer, and using contemporary media. And so it's a 12-week course, starts on April 1st. I bring in a few guest experts. There are 3 guest experts I've chosen to help me with that. And boom. So it's 12 weeks, and then, the course is over. And the idea is to give people the tools that will allow them to accelerate their business and to be ahead, and no longer be concerned or worried about falling behind anymore.
Yep. Awesome. Michael, thanks for being with me today. Just a plethora of ideas and information to help producers. And again, my whole goal is help them set more appointments. And so I think there's a bunch of gems in this to be able to help them with that. So I want to thank you very much.
All right. Pleasure talking to you, Randy. Thanks so much.